Hi, good morning, Life Point Crossing. How are you doing today? Seems good. Seems like we're doing good today. Probably shouldn't ask. I should just go with that. Hey, we're doing good today before you tell me something different. But no, it's good. It's a good day. We've been having a good time. It's summer. Everyone's going on vacation or planning vacation. And so we say, you know what? Summer road trip 2022, we're going to do this. And so we've been all sorts of places. We went through Indiana, got to the glorious land of New Hampshire to celebrate Independence Day in the land of live free or die. Clearly, you all chose live free, full support on that. Then last week, we headed south through the hatred and lies of Massachusetts. It's so good to be out of there. And today we're going to be rolling into actually another MA state, but not one I feel like that you really hear that much about or talk that much about. Today we're going to Maryland. I say Maryland. Boy, I mean, it's known for some things, crabs, crab cakes, Chesapeake Bay, Naval Base in Annapolis. Baltimore is a major city, but it also just kind of gets overshadowed a little bit, I feel like, by it's DC's right there, or then you go up the eastern seaboard and there's Philadelphia and New York City. So I don't feel like you really hear that much or think that much about Maryland. I've just barely been there. I drove through the part once between DC and Delaware, but that's about it. But if you do happen to roll into Maryland, I think you're likely to see a sign that looks a lot like this. Do we have?
It looks like we only have last week's.
That's not that funny to me, actually. All right, yeah, if Jim, if you can find one there that's 717, that would be fantastic, and I'd love to see a thumbs up when that happens. Other than that, I guess we're just going to keep going. Here's what the sign would say if we can find the notes on that, is the sign says, Maryland welcomes you, and then it says, enjoy your visit. That's nice. Enjoy your visit. That's, I think, a lot better than, we kind of had some fun with Indiana a few weeks back where they just said, welcome to Indiana. It's the crossroads of America. Surely this isn't your destination, but we know that you have to go through here to get to wherever it is that you actually want to be. And so that was interesting. But I think Maryland has done a lot better. They're like, Maryland, yes, like we fully recognize that we're just assuming that this is your destination. You've come here to visit. Fantastic. I'm very happy to see that. Thank you, Jim. Nice work. All right. You guys don't know what that does to the guy who's like, okay, we have nothing. This is a disaster. And the relief that I hope didn't show on my face any more than the horror. We'll see. But that's what you see. Maryland welcomes you. Enjoy your visit. They're assuming, that's at least what I immediately think of when I say it. They're just assuming that you're there. That's good. This is your destination. This is where you want to be, is Maryland. But then I also think about, how about the 6 million people who live there? Like, we're not really visiting. Like, this is my home. Not sure exactly what that means about that. Or then I wonder, even if this is maybe one of those kind of like polite, rude things, where it's like, oh, I do hope you enjoy your visit. How long will you be visiting for? We're a little bit full up on transplants, but we do hope that you have a nice time while you're here visiting. Is it just like my cynicalness that like wonders if there's a little bit of that in there? And then what if someone took a job and they're seeing that from your U-Haul and you're driving in and I'm saying, enjoy your visit. I bought a house. I'm not sure how welcome I would feel if that's what I saw. But I'm not necessarily looking to move there or buy a house or take a job. So I guess that's okay with me. I'm not too concerned with it, but it is a part of the series, of course, for a reason. And the reason is that I kind of like the enjoy your visit part. And I kind of like that really as something like a life theme. I think there's really something that's very true and very profound and very helpful about seeing our life as a visit, and that this isn't where we really live, that this is kind of short-term more than long-term. Our whole life here is a visit. This is a transitional period. And as I thought about this, and I thought about a way to really describe this, it sort of encapsulates it. Here's what I came up with, is I think this is very good and very helpful, is I think what we want to do as followers of Jesus is we want to think of our life as a mission trip. Has anybody ever been on a mission trip, like a short-term mission trip? For sure. A couple of people, yeah, I happened to, a couple of us have. I happened to sort of almost accidentally fall backwards into one once when I was in college. I ended up going with, I think it was a team of 8 college students when I was at college in California. We went and spent 6 weeks in the Philippines, traveled all over, I think 5 different cities, doing a bunch of different things. The biggest thing that we did was wherever we went, we would go to churches or schools and put on a drama that really remarkably effectively displayed the idea of God creating human beings and then us rebelling and rejecting him, and then Jesus coming at great cost to himself to reconcile us to him. Even as a cynical college student, I really thought it was pretty well done. But as you can imagine, I saw some really amazing things that changed a little bit the way I saw myself and my life in the world for the rest of my life. Laura, she's been on a couple. When we lived in Kentucky, she helped chaperone a youth group trip to Mexico once, did a bunch of different stuff. They did, I think, a backyard Bible club sort of for little neighborhood kids. They went to a Mexican women's prison. If that sounds intense, that might have been intense. A local radio station actually grabbed Laura, had her sing and play guitar, so that means she's an international radio star. Isn't that fun? I think that's what that means. That's pretty fun. Even at his ripe young age, our son Charles, he's been on 3. He's been to Peru, he's been to Guatemala, he's been to Haiti. So you can go to a whole bunch of different places. You can do a lot of different things. There's a lot of variety in a mission trip, but there are also some things that are constant, that are going to be the same wherever you go, whatever you do with a mission trip. And Maryland is a little bit of a strange place to go to a mission trip. I've never really heard of that, but I'm here to party, so here we go. And the first thing that we're going to say, and we're going to kind of, honestly, we have to start with this, but I'm going to kind of gloss over it, just to be honest, is the first thing is you need to determine what is your mission, right? What are you going to do anyway? There's a whole bunch of things. I think maybe most common for mission trips are construction projects. You could go and build a church or build a school or something like that. You know, my team was sort of a drama team. You can do medical things. You can do education. You can dig wells so that people have clean water. But what is it that we're doing anyway? What's the mission? And the reason I'm going to kind of gloss over it is because I feel like this was really the whole message for the Arkansas week, if you were here for that. And what we said is that you are created for relationship with God. Every one of us as human beings were created for a relationship with God, and establishing that and then working out sort of the implications of that is really our mission on life and on earth and in life. And so really kind of the rest of this message will be some of those implications. But I think that's really helpful. And I think this idea of life as a mission trip is so biblical. When I started thinking about it and looking for things, again, like I find really even more, I had to cut a couple things out that I couldn't even use or we'd be here for too long. But we're going to start with a verse in Philippians chapter 1. And for context, I'm not going to put all these verses up, but for context, what Paul has been talking about as he's ramping up to where we're going to go is he's really literally doing kind of the Hamlet to be or not to be. And he's saying, you know what? I'm thinking about this and I don't even know. I feel like what I would really want, what would be best for me, is to just leave this world and go be with Christ. That's really kind of what I want. But you know what? When I think about it, I also know that if I stay, that's going to be the best thing for you. If I'm here, I can minister to other people and improve things for others. And so I guess that's what I'll do. But if you think about it, that's really exactly sort of a mission trip mindset. If you thought about the places that I mentioned of going on mission trips, the Philippines, you should not try and talk about the Philippines and Philippians in the same message, man. It will mess you up. But the Philippines, Mexico, not like at a sandals, like real Mexico, Guatemala, Peru, Haiti, these places are not nicer than the United States. You don't go on a mission trip to somewhere where you have more amenities than you do at home. It's much more comfortable to be at home. If it's really about ease and comfort, you just never go. You just stay at home. But the whole point of the trip, right, is to benefit somebody, to do something great for some people, to really help out. And so that's exactly what Paul's talking about. And he says, so I guess I'll stay and I'll benefit others and I'll minister to people while I'm here. And then here's where he's going to Philippians 1:27, the first part of it. He says, so above all, you must live, look at that. as citizens of heaven, conducting yourselves in a manner worthy of the good news about Christ. And so, of course, this is written to people who are believers in and followers of Jesus. Okay, so if that's you, your citizenship is in heaven. This isn't home. This is a mission trip. And so when you're on a mission trip, one of the things that you do is you keep your primary citizenship. I was in the Philippines for a while. I didn't start to think of myself as a Filipino. I mean, I was there, it was like 6 weeks. It was a lot longer than vacation, unless you have a really good job and get really good vacation time. But, we were there for quite a while, but I didn't get a driver's license. I didn't establish a mailing address. I didn't get any kind of government ID, nothing. If anybody asked me where I was from, of course the answer was, I'm from the United States. That was my citizenship, and I never wavered in that. I never started to identify myself as a Filipino. That would have been really very strange. And this is maybe the one element of this message that can maybe be the most challenging, even though we're starting with it, because this is the one where we have to make this a conscious change, because every one of us has been born into the world that we've been born into, right? And so that's sort of our natural default mode thinking is, well, I'm from here. This is my citizenship. This is where I am. But when we become followers of Jesus, then this changes, and you begin to live as a citizen of heaven. And when we do that, that really changes the way we see ourselves and our world and our life in some really profoundly remarkable and very, very helpful ways. It's a huge perspective that will affect everything in your life if you let it. This isn't your home. Heaven is your home. It's really amazing how big a part of where we think of being from is it's such a big part of our identity. And it's something that I've moved around quite a bit, and so I've experienced it, and I still don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me, honestly, but I know it's real. I grew up, Laura and I both grew up just a little under 5 hours north, right up 29 in South Dakota. I moved away. I haven't lived there for almost 30 years. My own parents moved away like a decade ago, but still, if a couple weeks ago, if you ask, hey, where's Laura? I said, oh, well, she went home to visit her parents, and that's somehow we would just call that home sort of by default. It's really strange. We lived in New Hampshire for 12 years. I never would have said that I was a New Englander. Part of it is you have to live there for about 12 generations before you really become a New Englander. That's kind of true, actually. But I would have, if somebody was asking about me or where I came from, I would have said, oh, no, we really love living here, but no, at heart, I'm really a Midwesterner. And so it felt really very comfortable and very familiar when we moved here in January, because even though we're not from here exactly, just sort of general Midwestern, it's kind of felt a lot like home. It really did. But then if you go back even further, if you want to talk about things like my ethnicity or heritage, like most of us probably, it's a bunch of stuff mixed up, but predominantly German. You know what that means to me? Nothing. Like, not a thing. I didn't grow up in a German community. We didn't speak German growing up we were regular South Dakotas. Everything kind of normal, spoke English. Occasionally at a family reunion, the older people would sing a hymn in German, but there was no okay, yes, this is who I am. I was like, these people weird. And so I do like bratwurst and sauerkraut, but I also like tacos and pad thai. I think pretty much I just like food is all that means. But here's where I want my identity to begin. Is I'm a creation of the Creator God, follower of Jesus Christ, and citizen of heaven. Wherever I'm from, wherever you're from, wherever you used to be, wherever you're going, if you're moving across the country tomorrow, your primary citizenship is in heaven, not here. This is just our mission trip. Hebrews 11 is really a very interesting chapter. It's one of the kind of famous chapters in the New Testament. Sometimes people will call it like a hall of faith. And it kind of really does read like an Old Testament faith hall of fame, where it lists a whole bunch of people and their incredible faith, and it commends them for this. It's people who people like Noah and Abraham. It's a really interesting chapter. You should check it out. But right in the middle of it, it kind of stops for a minute, and here's what it says. It says, all these people, okay, these are the great people who we all look up to, of incredible faith. He says, all these people died still believing what God had promised them, even though they did not receive what was promised, but they saw it from a distance and they welcomed it. And it says that they agreed that they were foreigners and nomads, not just in a particular land, but here on earth, this entire planet. And it says, obviously, people who say such things, they're looking forward to a country that can call their own. Wait, now that kind of does sound like that could be something geographical here on earth. He says, but if they longed for the country they came from, they could have gone back. But no, they were looking for a better place. Look at this, a heavenly homeland. And it says, and that's why God was not ashamed to be called their God, for he's prepared a city for them. It's not that they didn't have a place. They just didn't have a place on this planet or on this earth. Your primary identity, it's not the United States, it's not Missouri, it's not where you're from, it's where you're headed. So good, you guys. Your primary citizenship is in your heavenly homeland. Here's the thing, though, is even though this isn't really our home, this isn't really where our ultimate citizenship is, and we're here just visiting, that doesn't mean, who cares, let's trash the place. Because one of the obvious elements of going on a mission trip is the whole reason you go in the first place is you're going to make things better. Right, you guys? I've already mentioned a bunch of ways that can happen on mission trips, but here's the thing, is there are all ways to make things better, right? Does that seem like a good idea? Like as Christ followers, if we made things better? I think that sounds like that would be a really, really good idea. Like, I think we should kind of do this. I know sometimes, you guys, it's so much easier and can seem so much more natural, and in some ways can even seem so right. Rather than to be here to make a positive difference and a positive impact, it can seem so right to take sort of a very defensive posture and sort of cloister off and not let any negative influence in kind of thing. And I know there's some realities on some levels, like for sure you want to be very intentional about what kind of things your children are exposed to at what life stage. Yes, absolutely. We've done whole messages on the impact of community and the people who you have close to you and how that can be for so good, or if it goes wrong, it can really be a very negative thing. Okay, so there's realities that we understand that, but you guys, your goal is to make a difference, right? To leave the world a much better place in some specific way than when you arrived. Remember in Philippians, when Paul was saying, if I stay, it's going to be for your benefit. He was really working to make a positive impact, to make a positive change, to make things better. And of course, the way we talk about that here at Life Point Crossing is with the phrase, live a bigger story. And that can look like a whole bunch of different things, but really at its core, what that means is that you're created to live for something bigger than and outside of yourself. And when you do that, you end up actually being probably the one who benefits the most, because that's exactly what God has created you for and what he's created you to do. And so there's a time and a place for defense. Like, that's okay. Man, but let's score some points. Like, let's go do something that's going to make a positive impact. So often, we can even take point one and say that, you know what, our primary citizenship is in heaven, but then instead of saying, so that means I'm really on something that's more like a mission trip, then sometimes we treat life more like we're in a prisoner of war camp. Right? Like, this isn't my homeland. I'm created for a different place. My citizenship's in heaven, and so I'm here. I'm just marking time. I'm just trying to stay strong, bear up under pressure and persecution, not betray my comrades, and just hold on until Jesus comes to take me home. Well, what that really sounds a lot more like is the circumstances that were real during the writing of the New Testament. And actually, Philippians, that we've already referenced a couple times, was written by Paul literally when he was under house arrest, because they were being arrested, imprisoned, sometimes executed for believing in and teaching about Jesus and the resurrected Jesus Christ. So there are some occasional encouragements to bear up under persecution and stay strong. That's real. But even under those literal circumstances, there are so many more encouragements to go make a positive difference, to love people, and hold out Jesus as the ultimate hope and the ultimate answer. And so many ways to do this based on who you are. Certainly any way in which you choose to be a part of or contribute to Life Point Crossing is an incredible way to do that. This is a ministry that really it reaches a lot more people probably than you realize and makes a much bigger impact in a lot more ways than you may even see or recognize. It's for anyone from anything from working back in the tech booth to in the kids ministry to being on the prayer team to so many different things. Anybody certainly who contributes financially, that's an incredible part of stepping out of yourself and being a big part of God's bigger story. Listen, if you have somebody in your life who you think could benefit by being a part of a community that's outwardly focused and following Jesus, you guys bring them. What, the music's good, the donuts are legit, and you can have, you laugh because that's true, right? The donuts are legit. You can have a real impact in somebody's life. Even as a church, we're doing this, and we're reaching out past just who we are. We're giving now regularly, I mentioned this the other week, to Community Service League that just helps meet people's material needs in the community, and also to Restoration House, which is a ministry specifically to people impacted by sex trafficking, which is the kind of thing that if someone in a situation like that comes to a church like this, like, I'm only so equipped to deal with that. But you know what? They're really well equipped to deal with that, and so we contribute to that. And now look, now we're helping make an impact in that. You know that the last couple of weeks we've been collecting school supplies for kids in the area through Community Service League. I looked in the barrel, you guys. Nice work. By the way, hey, man, that's making a difference. And how about something like this? This is just fun. How amazing is this? There's somebody here, I guess I'll just say her name is Jan Stumfall if you know her, or if you don't. She loves Jesus and Frisbee golf. And so she's putting together, she's through Life Point Crossing Church, she is leading up a charity Frisbee golf tournament. If you know or if you don't, there's a Frisbee golf course that kind of straddles our property here with the middle school next door. And so in August, we're going to have a Frisbee golf tournament for charity, and all the proceeds are going to go to an organization that helps people who are experiencing homelessness. Like, how great is that? Like, how cool is that? So these are obviously all things that happen to be specifically through the church. You don't have to do it specifically through the church, right? But we do want to provide a lot of easy on-ramps for you to be a part of making things better. And this is a part of what we're here to do with our life as a mission trip. Right? Here's another characteristic of a mission trip. Is you respect the local tradition, but you also hold on to who you are. You don't lose sight of who you are and what you're doing. Before the team that I was with went to the Philippines, we met with some people who'd spent time there and who'd lived there and were trying to learn about the differences in the culture and how different things might be approached or understood, things that wouldn't be obvious, because it's very different on the other side of the world. Here's something they actually did not tell us. Is that in the Philippines, at least at that time, and probably still now, I don't know if it's changed or not, but they said that any level of playing with playing cards was associated only with gambling, and gambling itself was associated only with people of very, very poor morals. And so when we had downtime, we played a lot of hearts. We didn't know, no one told us. But apparently, when we were just trying to stick my buddy with the Queen of Spades, unwittingly, what we were communicating to people in the local culture is that we were sexually loose and probably couldn't be trusted to keep our word or pay back a loan. Well, finally, when someone told us that, we're like, oh no. Have we been compromising the very reason that we flew halfway across the world? Okay, just because we're trying to play hearts? And so guess what we did? Well, we stopped playing hearts. We didn't, I don't think any of us immediately developed a conviction that playing hearts was from the devil. Of course not. We didn't believe that. But holy cow, if that's gonna ruin the whole purpose of us being here, you guys know that's cool. We'll play 20 quill, do something else. I don't know what, rock, paper, scissors, we'll make something up, but we're not gonna compromise the entire reason that we're here for playing hearts. So we're gonna respect that local tradition. That's okay. Hey, you know what? There was one place, this is going to sound strange, we were actually told not to be seen praying. I didn't know anything about the Philippines until I went. I still wouldn't know anything if I hadn't gone. But if you don't know, the vast majority of the nation it's really not Christian, but it's kind of a superstitious pseudo-Christian. It's really a lot of praying to Christian-themed idols is really what it is. But certainly there's nothing that's in any way hostile to Christianity or praying or nobody. There was no problem anywhere we went, except for the very southern portion of the Philippines is right next to Indonesia, which is the world's largest populated Muslim nation. And we were down in a city called Zamboanga in the very southern tip of one of the southern islands, and religious tensions were very, very high. Actually, very shortly after we left, there was a high-profile case where some missionaries were abducted by Muslim extremists and all sorts of craziness. So even there, most of the places that we went and most of the places that we performed and ministered were churches, but there was somebody there who knew how to get us in at Western Mindanao State University. It's exactly what it sounds like. And so before we went there, we were told by the people we were working with locally, they said, you know what, I know normally before you perform, you all stand in a circle and you pray, and that's good. Probably don't do that here. For sure, still pray. But probably just maybe split off 2 by 2 and just walk around, and you don't have to have your head bowed or anything or make it obvious, but for sure still pray, but maybe don't make it look so obvious that you're praying. And so you know what? Well, that's exactly what we did. But wow, we prayed. We didn't not pray. We prayed probably more and probably harder than anywhere else on the trip, if you could imagine being told that and what that's going to do to you. And then when we performed, you know what? When it came time, we didn't change anything. It was the exact full, here's the gospel in a dramatic sort of presentation, and we got heckled and people yelled stuff, and then afterwards we had one of the ladies from our team who shared her story of what Jesus had done in her life, and man, she got heckled, but man, she sure told her story about what Jesus had done in her life. We didn't change anything, we didn't back anything off, but we recognized that the place that we were in was a little different from some other places, and so we accommodated to what that meant, but we did not change what we were doing or who we were or what we were there for. So ministry is a little different in 2022 than it was in the 1950s or even when I was growing up in the 1980s. Well, God isn't. Jesus isn't. But the way we engage with certain elements of ministry is going to change a little bit depending on the time and the place that we're in and the sort of surrounding circumstances that we find ourselves in. So the best way I've heard this said was date your model, marry your mission. What that means is the way in which we engage in ministry, our model for what we do for ministry, that's something that we're free to stay with for as long as it's serving our needs. But if it comes a time when that's really not going to work anymore, we can break up. That's all right. Say, you know what? It's not you, it's me, whatever you want. But that's something we can change. The mission, what we're here to do, follow Jesus and glorify God, that one we're committed. That one never changes. The way it works out, the way it's expressed, all sorts of these various things that are the model, those can change. You date your model. But in marriage, that's where if we have some challenges with our mission, we're going to work through those and we're going to come out the other side because that's where we're committed. So we respect the local tradition and culture and whatever that may be. Those things can change, but we're going to hold on to who and what we are. Okay, and then finally, even though you're there for a mission and to make things better for others, we are going to still do the Maryland. Yes, you can enjoy your visit. Enjoy your visit. Look, I remember being so pumped up to go to the Philippines. If you could imagine, and I think this was not just me, I think this was the whole team. We'd been working up to this and praying up to this for months. This was like the biggest thing we'd ever done. I mean, we were like 20. Actually, come to think of it, my 21st birthday was in the Philippines. It was a banger. But this is the biggest thing we've done in our life. And so we went and we were ready for wall-to-wall ministry. And then when the people who we were working with at whatever local area, when they wanted to give us a day off or do something fun, honestly, we were kind of annoyed. Really, we didn't come and give up my summer and fly halfway across the world to go to the beach. Like, we're here for ministry. But you know what? The people who put our itinerary together, the people who were in charge of these things, they knew a little better than we did. And they knew that we're not created for wall to wall. And that it was going to be much better for us and really more God-honoring if we took some time for rest and relaxation. God himself rested on the seventh day, not for himself, but for us. And so we had days where we went to the beach. I don't even like the beach, but it was kind of wild, I guess, to be on the beach in the Philippines. And so we drank out of coconuts, and we hiked at some point to some amazing waterfall. I have no idea where. Even though it had been out for 10 or 15 years, randomly we watched Spaceballs in a Filipino movie theater. It was amazing. They laughed at all the wrong spots. It was so funny. It's true. It was true. And they actually scheduled us a 3-day sabbatical right in the middle of our trip. We were there for ministry. We were there with really the right motives. We were there on mission. I think all of us were. I think I speak for the whole team. But we also enjoyed our visit. And they made sure we enjoyed our visit. You guys, there's a lot of things about following Jesus in life that aren't always fun. There's a lot of things that are really hard. It's not like a vacation. But it is also okay to enjoy your mission trip and even take some time specifically out for enjoyment. I really don't even want to make that big a point of this, but sometimes I just worry that you hear a message like this and people walk out and now you're going to feel guilty about enjoying a sunset or a nap or a baseball game. Listen, you're not any more spiritual or any more on mission the more angry or burned out you are. There are going to be some difficulties. Enjoyment isn't the purpose of your visit, to be very clear. But it is okay. Like, man, it's okay to enjoy your visit. So see your life as a mission trip, you guys. Keep your primary citizenship. Your citizenship is in heaven. It's not here. That changes everything when you start to see things like that. When you go, you're here to make things better. And by the way, while you're here making things better, just watch and see how God changes you and your life while you're trying to be focused on being a blessing to somebody else. And when we're here, we're going to respect the local tradition. We're going to understand the situations that are around us here where God's put us. But we're also going to hold on to who we are. And as much as we can, wherever we are, man, there's nothing at all unspiritual about enjoying your visit. All right, let's pray. Father, thank you so much that you put us here, that you've given us life, and that you've given us something to do with our life, and that it's something that matters and something that can have an impact not only on us and our growth in our life and journey with you, but on the people that you've placed around us in our life and in our world. Thank you for the opportunity not just to live, but to live with purpose and to live with mission and to live for something that is bigger than and outside of ourselves. That's you and your glory and seeing that expressed in others and in the world around us. And still praying, if you're here and maybe you've never taken that first step to change your citizenship from here on earth to heaven, if you've never taken that step to connect with God and to make your life about something other than you, listen, this is your moment. And your day is today. The situation is very simple. Every one of us is a sinner. Every one of us has had things in our life. We've done things we knew they were wrong. We did them anyway. And God, as a perfectly just God, then that destroys any chance we have of a relationship with him. But that's why Jesus Christ came, lived a perfect, sinless life, and then died in our place to satisfy justice on your behalf, so that he took your guilt, you take his righteousness, and you can be forgiven and adopted as a child of God and his family forever. Listen, this is you right now. You can just say out loud to him or even silently, and he'll hear you. Pray, say, God, I believe that Jesus Christ came and died and rose again so that I could be forgiven and adopted as a child in your family. Please come into my life. Forgive me and adopt me. Begin to make me into the person you created me to be, and give me the life that you have for me. If you just prayed a prayer like that for the first time, it's not the words or the prayer that saves you. It's that you put your faith in Jesus and God's grace comes to you through that. You're a new spiritual creation, forgiven and adopted as his child. Listen, the best thing you can do right now is when we're done here in just a couple minutes, go out to the point. Again, that's just the corner in the lobby, and let Trinessa know that you made that decision. She'll take your information. We'll follow up with you and get you taking some healthy steps down a wonderful path of your new life and following Jesus. We're so excited for what God's doing in your life for so many of us here. Hey, for the rest of us, what is it that God has for you in this message? Is there probably one point in particular maybe that really strikes you as something that you haven't been doing or haven't been doing enough? I suspect that for a lot of us, man, it's number one, that we have never really thought of ourselves as living as citizens of heaven and making that one of the cornerstones of our identity. That's really where we're invested, and that we're just here on mission trying to make things better in the days that God gives us. Will you, whatever it is, if it's that or something different, commit right now between yourself and the Spirit of God to taking the steps that leads you to and through to live your life as a mission trip while you're here. But this is just a visit. This is not where we are from. Father, we're so grateful again for the life that you give us, for the purpose and meaning that you lead us into. And we respond by giving our entire lives, all that we are and all that we have, back to you in joy and in thanksgiving. Father,